This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and today it's Wednesday. It's December 6th, 2023. Thank you for joining us here at thetruthcentral.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. First story I want to cover has to do with the Israeli-Hamas War. Israel is now moving south into Gaza, and they've really captured and controlled now Gaza City, which is in the northern part of Gaza. Gaza is a very narrow strip of land on the Mediterranean, just north of Egypt. What Israel is saying is that the commanders for Hamas have moved south, and Hamas has moved its operational activities into these tunnels and into the south of the Gaza. So the Israeli military is claiming it killed about half of the Hamas mid-level commanders in Gaza, and they're pressing forward today to the suspected hiding place of the group's leader in a bid to eliminate its top leadership, Hamas's top leadership. What Israel's doing is a strategy to find and kill the militant group's mid-level operatives because they believe this will disrupt Hamas's ability to fight in Gaza. That's a likely possibility, although the leadership will quickly replace itself, and there'll be others who come into those positions. What they're doing what the Israel strategy appears to be concentrating on the second city that's large, the largest city in the southern strip, which is this Khan Yunis, KhanyouniS. And that's where the Israelis believe their top Hamas commanders are. Israel military also said it killed senior commanders hiding in a tunnel in northern Gaza. And I'm sure Israel is cleaning out these tunnels and has plans to destroy the tunnels before they're done. The Hamas infrastructure being killed will set back Hamas, but again, it doesn't destroy Hamas. Hamas's leadership is now in Qatar, and you have the Israeli forces engaging in street-to-street combat in the second city, the second biggest city in the southern part of the strip, Gaza Strip. And Israel, I think, will be effective in finding these commanders and killing them. The strategy of Israel right now appears to be to take control of the Gaza Strip and to destroy Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And I don't think Israel's going to stop. I know international pressure continues to mount, saying there's civilian casualties and Israel's got to stop the offensive, which is typical whenever Israel seeks to have an offensive to root out terrorism. It's happened in Lebanon and the Obama administration. The U.S. administrations, especially Obama and Biden, do not have very strong support for Israel on any prolonged military initiative, which could really do damage to the terrorist organizations. This time, I don't think Israel cares. This October 7th attack was so horrific and so brutal that Israel now sees that this is an existential threat, and it makes the last few decades of trying to accommodate Hamas and trying to bring Hamas into a responsible international position, tolerating the existence of Israel, has failed. And Israel's left, I think, has been disgraced by their attempt to disarm the population in Israel and leave the Israeli citizens increasingly vulnerable, not only to Hamas in Gaza. Hamas also has a very strong position in the West Bank, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is to the north of Israel. Syria is also hostile. You can see Damascus standing in the Golan Heights in Israel. I've done it in northern Israel, stood there and looked down to see Damascus. So this war is going to continue. It's not going to subside. I think it's going to go on for maybe months more, 6 months more. And Israel is going to take a very strong position in Gaza and root out this Palestinian. I don't think the Palestinian Authority is going to survive anywhere nearly as strong, although it will attempt to reassert itself. and the PLO, the Palestinian Liberations Army organization, rather, will probably resurface as a force. You've got a contest between Hamas, which is strongly supported by Israel, and the Palestinian Authority, which has always been aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood going back to Egypt. That this is a very complex situation in which these are really not the original Palestinians who were supposedly uprooted in 1948 when Israel was created. When Israel was created by a partition of Israel and a vote in the United Nations in 1948, there were Palestinian sections that were left intact. And the Israelis did not root out necessarily all the Palestinians who were in areas that were now Israeli controlled. Israel wanted to create a Jewish state. It did not have as its goal to eliminate the Palestinians, which has been the argument alleged by the radical, leftist, militant forces among Hamas, among Palestinian Liberation Organization, among Hezbollah, etc. These organizations are committed to the destruction of Israel. And there's not going to be any two-state solution as long as Iran is behind the funding of these groups. Let's talk about Ukraine. It's now pretty clear the German newspaper Welt, W-E-L-T, Welt, published an article which was pretty forthright and remarkably truthful for the European Union. I was actually kind of shocked they told this much truth. European Union is famous for disinformation and lying, much as our own government. At any rate, this newspaper was saying that the Ukrainian offensive against Russia failed. They've gotten less than 1% recovery of the territory they thought they were going to get back from Russia. And what the article is saying is, has Kiev already lost? Well, the answer to that question is yes. Kiev's army is now depleted. They're trying to recruit anybody they can to fight. Zelensky's out there trying to get more money so they can steal more money. Ukraine's famous for its corruption. And the EU and the United States seems to be not supplying as much of the weaponry as we said we would. It's not getting there. Although you're finding that there's a bind in the EU and the United States in the terms of not wanting to really supply the sophisticated weaponry that Zelensky's asking for. If Zelensky got what he wanted, it would soon escalate because they had equipment, a military arsenal that would be capable of taking out this Kerch bridge, to supply route to Crimea and etc., or attacking Russia, energy supplies in Russia, or just attacking various military bases or whatever in Russia, that the war would expand. And the EU and I think the United States are now realizing that they're in a bind. The war's in a stalemate. It's like a World War I. Everybody's hunkered down in bunkers, and the winter's coming. And so therefore, I don't see any real move for peace at the moment, because all Zelensky's doing is going around internationally and asking for more money, and the Biden administration will ask Congress for more money. The Biden administration's corruption with Ukraine is legendary. It's what was their corruption with China and anybody else who will pay them, just like Hillary Clinton with their foundation and her private email server while she was Secretary of State, doing business to make sure they put money in their pockets. That's what this is about. And the military-industrial complex is getting its payday, just as the pharmaceutical companies got their payday during the pandemic, while the FDA demonized hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. This is a insane set of circumstances. If disinformation is abundant here, it's very hard to get truth out of the mainstream media. And the reality is that despite all of the boasting about Ukraine and this freedom movement, Zelensky is still supported by the western part of Ukraine, which is neo-Nazi. He had neo-Nazi brigades fighting for him from the beginning. Russia's taken over territory that was Russian-speaking from the beginning, and this goes back to 2013 when Hillary Clinton started taking money from Pinochet, who was a oligarch in Ukraine who wanted to put money into the Clinton Foundation. And then the State Department came along with George Soros and decided they would expand the color revolutions in order to oust Yanukovych, who was a duly elected but Russian-leaning president of Ukraine. And that's when the Ukrainian army started attacking various of the pro-Russian brigades in the east of Ukraine. This situation's a mess, and it is by the left's determination to expand NATO to the frontier of Russia, just as like NATO is now including Finland. Well, Finland's now militarizing its border with Russia because Russia has, as a nation state, a need to be able to access the Atlantic through both the Baltic Sea, which NATO is now calling the NATO Lake, and through the Black Sea, where Russia controls most of the Black Sea, including Crimea, except for possibly Odessa. Russia could probably take Odessa if they determine that that's what they want to do next. Chris, you want to comment on this?
Yes. Keep in mind, before Biden took office and before the EU gained or regained its prominence, if you will, we hadn't heard a peep out of Vladimir Putin. Maybe some talk. That's about it. When Obama was president, obviously he flexed his muscles as well. Keep this in mind. The EU and, of course, the North American portion of the NATO types have seemingly become the aggressors in this. Now, I understand that Vladimir Putin is the one who invaded Ukraine. I get that. But the idea is, why is it that we're trying to stop these guys instead of really stopping or keeping Putin from actually or keeping him from any incentive to try to move forward into these things and force access to the Atlantic? NATO has become the force which is trying to block that. This has been going on for longer than obviously the Ukraine war situation, but think about that. Has the EU not become what they despised?
Well, essentially, you've got money interests here,
right?
And that's what's driving this war. That's the amount of money that the military-industrial complex is getting today to fight this war is ridiculous. I want to move on today. Please get a copy of this free book. I've written 2 small books. This is one. And it's the toll-free number. This is the How the Coming Global Crash Will Create an Historic Gold Rush. It's with Dean Heskin. Dean is the CEO of Swiss America, a good friend. We worked together for years. You get a copy of How the Coming Global Crash Will Create an Historic Gold Rush. Get a copy. Gold is still trading over $2,000 an ounce. That's held through the week. I think it's a new standard that's coming. And also, by the way, Swiss America still has going the Walking Liberty $50 offer. If you come to our website, thetruthcentral.com, the sponsors at the top, Chris will show you here. If you choose the drop-down menu, if you choose Swiss America, you can see a form to fill out for this Walking Liberty $50 offer. You get up to 250 of these coins. They're very high content silver. And it's a one-time introductory offer for new customers of Swiss America, and you can buy up to 250 of these coins for just about what they're worth in silver. I've also got another book. Now, this one is for sale, and it's up on Amazon, Live Longer and Better. It's with Chris Burries, and it is about the My Vital C, which is one of our sponsors. Again, you can click down on the menu. My Vital C is a remarkable molecule discovered about 40 years ago. And it has longevity principles. I've been taking it for 5 years, and I'll swear by it. I think it's done remarkable my hair colors, my hair has come back. I'm not dyeing it or anything else. And the energy, I take it every day, and I just swear by this. It's also available for pets. Now, try it in your pets. You'll see how much they like it. They like it. You should like it too. So please give My Vital C a try. We have gear on the website. Please look and see about the gear for the Truth Central. Okay, let's return to the news here. I want to get 2 things on the energy crisis. This energy meeting is in Dubai right now, and it is a disaster. The energy meeting is, you've got John Kerry, John Kerry is, I think, one of the greatest fools in American history. I co-authored Unfit for Command with John O'Neill, 2004, the Swiftboat book. Swiftboat veterans speak out against John Kerry about his disgraceful behavior in Vietnam and all these Purple Hearts he was collecting and trying to run for president like John Kennedy, who was a PT boat commander during World War II. Well, Kerry thought he'd be a swiftboat commander and would sweep him into the White House. He just didn't realize that John Kennedy was an actual war hero, saved much of his crew after they had their ship overrun by a destroyer at night during World War II, a Japanese destroyer. John Kerry's asking for, in this climate summit, he's asking for he wants to pledge the United States to have no more coal producing facilities and to shut them all down. So we're not going to have coal anymore. This guy is disgraceful that he is in the position of climate czar. This is a disgrace to the United States. He gave a speech saying that we need to eliminate coal. He would have us eat bugs. He'd have us only have 3 new pieces of clothing a year. We'd have to be limited our flights. We'd maybe take 1 airplane flight a year, live in 15-minute cities. I mean, these people are insane. And what is being demonstrated over on ClimateDepot.com, Mark Morano's website, and I dedicated my book on energy, The Truth About Energy, Global Warming, and Climate Change, to Mark Morano. He's been a friend since 2004. What Mark is reporting from Dubai is that this unelected climate potentiate, John Kerry, is decreeing the end of coal, but China and India are massively using coal. And with China and India determined to use hydrocarbon fuels, we're finding that these net zero targets are ridiculous. In fact, the head of this whole conference, the UN Climate Summit president, who is Sultan Al-Jaber, claimed that there was no science behind the idea that we needed to phase out hydrocarbon fuels to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. He said essentially that this is Al-Jaber, who is the Saudi Arabian, who is the president of this summit, who's saying that it's ridiculous to think that we can go without hydrocarbon fuels. Now let's see, I guess he's from UAE. I'm sorry, he is UAE, he's not Saudi Arabia. I just see that in the article. Okay, so he made remarks during one of the sea changes, one of the panels, and he basically said that you can't phase out hydrocarbon fuels. He said in response to a question, there is no science out there or no scenario out there that says phase out of fossil fuels. They always call them fossil fuels. No fossil ever made any fuel. Is what's going to achieve 1.5. He said he expected to come to this meeting to have a sober and mature conversation and was not signing up to any discussion that is alarmist. So he said, this was, I think, the key point he made, that he said, please help me, show me a roadmap for a phase out of hydrocarbon fuels that will allow sustainable socioeconomic development unless you want to take the world back into the caves. So the 2 stories I want to cover, one is here that India and China are using hydrocarbon fuels at a massive amount, and they're not going to stop. They're dependent upon coal. They're picking up a lot of the Russian oil. Russia has developed new markets and new relationships with both India and China over the sanctions in Europe, and Russia is not sending any natural gas right now to Europe directly. Indirectly, they may be getting some, but again, this whole hypocrisy of saying that we have to end our emissions when it's going to make zero difference because if India and China aren't cooperating, this whole agenda is just an ideological claptrap. Okay, the second story I want to cover has to do with these buses, electronic buses. There is a major story out today that this company that Biden favored is called Proterra. They had huge amounts of money, billions of dollars to develop electric buses. Now, the company's gone bankrupt. Why? Because the electric buses don't work. The electric buses that have been sold to cities, I think there's only one city or two cities with any exception, these buses break down. There's no spare parts for them. There's not adequate chargers for them. They are not efficient in terms of how they really operate when you consider how much energy has to go into producing the batteries and all the other apparatus to make electric vehicles work. The idea of having an electric car, if you want an electric car and you want to scoot around a small city, is okay. It's like having a solar panel in your house. It might generate some electricity, but you're not going to have a whole metropolitan fleet of electric buses and have it be functional. The spare parts are expensive. Again, this company is not even able to supply spare parts. So cities that have bought these electric buses, half of them or more aren't running. They're broken down just broken down nonsense. So, I mean, the whole issue here is one of ideologically driven science, which does not work.
Once again, it's favored company status. You remember Solyndra back in the Obama era. All these companies that these environmentally friendly, or I should say environmental alarmist types like to prop up, seem to be complete failures. Invariably, that's what's happening. It's not just now. It's not just the Biden administration and Biden Inc. This has happened throughout American history.
Well, and again, you find that when you peel back the onion, you find that the people who are running these companies are politically favored of Biden as they were politically favored of Obama during the Solyndra era.
Exactly. And this by no means tells us that some of these maybe somebody with a brain could fix or figure something out. I'm not a big fan of these electric buses either. And we'll get into a choice versus force in the future. But what I'm saying here is virtue signaling does not a proper business move make.
Yeah, I mean, ESG is a bad idea of investing. These are just bad ideas. They don't work. If they worked, you wouldn't need all this government subsidy. The global economic situation is still very fragile. They'll probably prop it up through 2024 to try to preserve election chances for Democrats. Do yourself a favor, get this Coming Global Crash, this book, free. Coming Global Crash will create an historic gold rush. I've written it with Dean Heskin. You should get the free number, 1-800-519-6268. 1-800-519-6268. You can get a free copy. And do yourself a favor, get your money, especially retirement savings, out of the stock market, including out of mutual funds that are investing in the stock market. In the end, God always wins. God will win here too. I encourage you in the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14 to join me in asking God to forgive us for taking God out of our lives, out of our country, killing babies by the millions in the womb. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if we do this, God will hear our prayer and he will heal our land. I don't believe God created the human race to fail. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today is Wednesday. It's December 6th, 2023. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. TheTruthCentral.com. Like us. We're on many different channels. Take a look in the upper right-hand corner. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on iHeart, BitChute. Just look at the number of channels. We're on Rumble. We're trying to make this program widely available. If you like it, share it. You can listen to past episodes on the website. It's a very robust website. It's got a lot of information to it, and we'll be enhancing it again in 2024. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. God bless.